And with that, we're going to throw over to our casting duo. I got told that I have to show some respect, so I will. Did you guys know that Rebel is actually bilingual? Not only can he speak English, but he can also speak American. You're right, his English is a bit broken. Either way, Rebel, your way, take us away.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the VCS English live broadcast here as we get into game number 2 of GAM versus Cerberus. Hey, did everybody know that Milky wets the bed? That's right, he pees himself every single night, and it's funny because he's a 35-year-old man. Anyway, that's my knock towards him. You're welcome to start talking at any point. Can you tell me about... Okay, let me know this is a rough opinion. I actually don't really love GAM's composition, like, at all.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of both the Jinx and the Wukong, I have to say. Like, I can understand why you want to go Wukong again. Because it's a super strong champion. But the priority on the Wukong is kind of surprising to me. I think GAM should be a team that can also play a few more champions, experiment a little bit more with jungle, and I'm still just very confused as to why GAM is so... Yeah, just doesn't experiment ever with the jungle picks when there's so many things you can do. You can counter the Wukong. You can actually try to get a really good matchup for Levi, who's the best farmer of all time in the VCS jungle, and it's just confusing to me.
It's strange. Maybe they're holding their strategies for playoffs. Maybe that's the idea. They're so late into the season, it just doesn't matter to them that much. But outside of that one aspect, I cannot imagine why it is that they would not be experimenting a little bit more, especially in games like this where it feels like you have a little bit of leeway to be able to do so. As Pun, it's a little bit of a trade. That was, okay, he goes Q start, which that's not always the best for like the bush strat, right? Like typically you go W, right? Like you just try to auto cancel, you get the stun, you get an additional auto attack, and you're up like 3 autos. But Pun instead opts for the Q, goes for a little bit of the healing to kick things off, does have the rage bar kind of advanced quite a bit. It does have quite a bit of pressure over top of Kiai now, at least.
I think it's mostly the difference between PTA and Conqueror, from what I've seen, where PTA you definitely go W to get the instant proc and deal a lot of damage and even have kill pressure. With Conqueror you don't really need to, because, well, you probably can't kill him anyway, and the extra healing is nice. But yeah, this is another Renekton. Pun is one of our very high-profile Renekton players, as is Kiaya. Kiaya is not an On player. He is so far, whenever Hankai was coming onto our stream and podcast, he was talking about On, just saying, best champion in the game, but Kiaya just doesn't want to play it. Apparently, he has talked him over, as that's a huge gank.
Immediately, Yato into the mid lane, as that's going to be Flash's burn, actually from Cuddy and Levi, and they don't get Yato. They do get both of his summoner spells, and he's going to have to back almost certainly, but he's in a really bad position, so the wave is messed up very heavily for Yato right now. Maybe they want to go for a dive afterwards as well, but double Flash from GAM's mid-jungle for that.
Drakthar, can you please come and help? Thank you. He is very far overextended.
Actually, yeah, Cuddy's very far up, okay. Q Flash coming
through.
Yep,
Nice.
there it is. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Unfortunately, not able to get the kill over to Yato, but still a nice early kill for Drakthar and really nicely punished. So first aggression for GAM, but first kill over to Cerberus.
I don't mind it because, to me, this ends up being a game where it's a contest between ADCs, and if Drakthar is fed, he has a way to contest style. Just press the ultimate button and go after him as fast as he can, try to erase him before he does any really significant damage in a fight, and it's a lot harder to stick to the Zeri, so I'm okay with Levi getting some early gold here, as once again, summoners traded between mid and jungles on both sides. It ends up being first blood here to Cerberus.
We see a little bit of the early bot lane domination from Jinx and Nautilus, as Tim predicted. Yeah, Jinx just really good wave clear, very easy, very fast trades into the Zeri, where she can't really retaliate because they can't hit through the minions. Jinx can. So yeah, this is just a really easy game to play for Stahl so far, and we know Stahl is a really good Jinx player in the first place.
Okay. B taking a little bit of damage, but not going to follow it. Is Ron OP, instead just taking the chip damage as necessary, letting Artemis poke him away at least a little bit. I'm looking at both junglers because I do feel like, oh, actually, wait, there's... Okay. You can't point the camera here if nothing's going to happen. I want to see action. Okay, Levi's here for the cover, and Draklar's on the other side of the map right now, so we could get a response. As Pun flashes, can't get out of the range of the E from Kiaya, as now Levi is going to go in. He stepped forward thinking Levi would want more, but Levi actually just backed off, so he lost the E. If the flash was held, I suppose they could have kept chasing him, but instead it's just going to be a done deal on the top side.
So he actually got out by tanking instead of using his E. He tanked the knockup and then used E afterwards, which was enough because Levi, of course, had no flash to follow. Interesting. I thought he was dead there, but well played from Pun. Knows his champions, knows the limits, and knows how to get out of there. As Cerberus is a little bit late on the reset, but they should be able to crash the wave. Oh, Style is actually staying here, like these minions, so it's actually a first reset from Cerberus stat, which is quite good on this area into Jinx lane, so going pretty well for Cerberus in game 2 again.
Yes. Okay, I do wonder if Styles stuck around here just to try to link up his timer with Levi heading into the bottom side jungle because the dragon is going to be up. Because now B has a chance to step into bottom side river, put some wards down, maybe make a play against Yato since the wave is in a really bad position for the Talia to make a play against Kadi, especially with level 6 looming. Instead, Levi's actually cross-mapping and he's going to find nothing up for Drakthar. I was really hoping the bottom side lean would actually work out here. Like, they have so much control of the mid lane right now that it is ridiculous. But instead, Levi just wants to punish this top lane matchup. His ultimate's there for Ki, not there for Pun. Gonna get knocked up. He's going to die. Nothing really to be done about that one, as Ki is just going to collect that one up just as fast as possible.
Getting himself a nice back. He really wanted this one because he even came twice, and Kiaya collects the kill. That's really, really good for GAM. Now Kiaya off to a great start, doesn't have to contest every single CS because, yeah, he already has a kill under his belt, is up in experience, already level 6 on the on, and it's just smooth sailing from the side of GAM. They're going to look at late game with On and Jinx and be pretty confident about that stage of the game.
And that's Drakthar pulling a couple of minions there, but again, not on bottom side. I was anticipating, he was pathing towards top, so it's not surprising he's not going to be available for any sort of bot side play. But it's unfortunate because it felt like there was opportunity here for, Cerberus to make a response play on the other side of the map, but getting punished, all things considered. Just losing their top laner. Now the Renekton in a hole that's probably not able to be overcome in any significant fashion because he's down 8 CS. He's got a call as his first component item, like, not a great place to be if you're the Renekton, not feeling good into the Ornn. Instead, they got to use him at Rift Herald, maybe. Maybe that's the play here for Pun, more than anything else. If Ryuk has taught us anything, it's that the Renekton is a mean team fighter when you can flank with him properly, so hopefully Pun can try to manage that one.
Well, we talked about Renekton yesterday a whole lot and how he doesn't really have to be ahead in the early game. I think it's a little bit worse against On, where he should really have a little bit of an advantage, but his time is still to come. He's a strong mid-game champion, 1 item, 1.5 items, and flash stun on Style. Now, Style did bring his cleanse and wise clairvoyance, I guess, because, yeah, it's gonna happen. He's gonna get flashed on top of. But there's still a Vi to follow up on. There's still Yado, and we all know about Renekton Talia combination, so I think he can still act as a little bit of a CC bot later on in the game, but he's losing top quite heavily.
Yes, and especially with Levi hovering around, there's no play to be made. Is in mid lane, Kadi had to leave, was backing in the middle of the lane, and it looks like it got stopped by Drakthar kind of poking his head into that brush, as now Drakthar steps into Rift Herald area. Levi can see this with the ward, but with Kadi having no mana, can't push. Yato is available to walk into mid, as well as bot lane being here as well. Cerberus is just ready and raring to go on the fight if the time comes. As B is here, Kadi's here. They might try to contest, but all 5 members of GAM or Cerberus are here and ready to fight this one. We're seeing kind of a reminiscent of what we had seen in the previous game. That's going to be an ultimate coming through. Ultimate onto Kadi immediately from Drakthar is going to kick things off. That's going to be an immediate assassination as they're traded jungler for 1. That's going to be on the backside. Artemis trying to put in damage as Levi gets one on the front side of this one. Kiaya is going to jump in on a Pun, who is just getting absolutely eviscerated in terms of damage. As Artemis and Yato, the 2 damage healers, are available. W is gorgeous from Artemis to be able to continue.
He needs to get these kills. He needs to chase these.
1 back. Okay, can he find anything else? He's got E up in just a couple of seconds. Can he find the time? Can he find anything? B is just going to come back with the hook, as that's going to be the break of the fight. Cerberus getting something back. GAM looked like they were primed and ready to win inside of a fight like that, but thankfully, Cerberus pulling a couple of members back. Nobody gets the Rift Herald. At least not yet. It seems like they're sticking around. Drakthar is going to be back here in just a second as we get a replay of the fight.
A really nice interruption by Pun there. He knows where Kiaya wants to come from because he played the On in the last game, but then it's not quite enough damage from Artemis at the start. If this is a late game fight, Artemis just sweeps through everyone. Yeah, but he has a Cull and maybe a Noon Quiver, so there's very, very little damage coming from his side. It's still a 250 W onto the tank, so yeah, he's going to get scary, and he just collected 2 kills. Now it's only 1 went over to him, so not quite as good as I thought it would be. Still, Cerberus playing it close. They got the Herald as well, so if they can funnel that gold into Artemis, once again, we're looking at the hyper carry from Winter, potentially bringing them to game 3.
And it was Rift Herald taken by Drakthar after because he was the first one dead. He ulted in immediately to kick off that fight and then was the first one redeployed on the map afterwards because he was the first one to go down. And they had all the pressure in the world because all the members of GAM remaining after the fight were very low, couldn't stick around, as Artemis was still had the most of his health bar, had a lot of play room to play with, which is a great position to be in. As Cerberus again showing this insane propensity to play incredibly well around this Rift Herald, which is, again, this wasn't always their identity inside of this split, but previously we knew it was their strength. And again, it's nice to see them kind of go back to it, especially as they're trying to make a push for playoffs here. This is a playoff contention team. They're trying to pass up, Saigon Buffalo is still ahead of them. SE is still ahead of them, but they do have date against SE next week to potentially try to flip that matchup on its head and to make themselves the playoff contender because they're very close to it, but they have to win this game against GAN.
Engage in style?
Drakthar is going to ult immediately over. That style just dead immediately. Levi is going to flash an ultimate to try to put some damage in. His Artemis needs to try to put damage
Levi's
out.
so
Levi
strong!
has something else. He's still alive. He's going to bring him down after all things said and done, as Yado doesn't have the damage to carry the rest of the fight, as it's going to be one from GAM, but one on the other side of the map is getting bullied by Kiai a bit, but it's going to be a dragon and a fight win for GAM.
Levi is actually right now the hyper carry for GAM. If you just fight on Wukong's terms in the early game, this is a really strong champion. He has a lot of damage under his belt. It's not a one and done champion like Vi. This champion can actually bring the DPS, and yeah, Style died, but everyone overextended. Artemis went over the wall and then had no way of kiting Levi. Levi just natural armor from his passive, everything going his way. He walks away with another 2 kills and another objective under his belt, but let's take another look. The engage is cool, but you also have to remember Ronopi is not...
Okay.
Yeah, he's level 6 here. But Artemis can't move anywhere. He doesn't have E, so where does he go? He can't. He can't go anywhere. So it's everyone just AoEing down this Zeri. Zeri loves to have open space and a little bit of terrain where he can surf at the sides and then use her movement speed and her insane kiting abilities. This is exactly where you don't want to fight as Zeri.
It was so strange too, because it seemed very heavily like Artemis jumped over a wall, popped ultimate, and then immediately got caught up. If you just stayed on the other side of the wall with Yado, either A, you get to auto attack over the wall for free if they decide to take the fight into the 2 members that went over in both Ronopi and Drakthar, which they seem like they were committing to one way or another. And the other half of it is if they stay on the other side, Yado is your body blocker. You get to put in damage on the other side of the fight, and there's no way to get onto you because all the cooldowns had been burnt from Levi. I don't know if it was one big vision lapse there that prevented Artemis from playing that fight perfectly, but it was over-aggression, overstepping from Artemis that I think really cost him. Because again, if he's over top of the wall, he probably doesn't die and puts in a lot more damage safely inside of that fight. So it's just a mistake from the veteran.
Also forces Levi to then go over the to the other side of the wall, which costs him some time. Then he has the open river to kite. Yeah, the going into this choke point was the worst possible situation, and especially against something like Vex, Wukong, and Nautilus. Those are the dream champions to fight into close quarters, because everything they do is AoE CC. So yeah, Artemis needs to do better in team fights, and the first one was quite impressive, but now his flash is almost up again. Remember, that was down in the Dragon fight, actually, because he used that aggressively to chase down some members on the top side of the map. So Cerberus can look for another fight. He finished his first item now. He just completed his cash-in with a cull as well. So he should be on pretty strong items once he goes back to base.
Okay, now bottom side, you can see there's a ridiculous number of wards that are covering that one area that the fight had existed in, but outside of that, it's going to be something else. As Kadi is defending right now against the dive. Can Ronopi catch him? He cannot. The teleport is going to get him out of a bad situation. Instead, take him to top lane where there's a winning fight. Pun with a nice flash as Levi's on top of him as well. He uses the Q to try to get some health back, but thankfully Levi took tower aggro, so Kiaya is not under any threat. Instead, just the kill to top side. As bottom lane is now really, really free to push from the side of Cerberus. They're just trading opposite sides of the map. I do wonder if they can pull first tower somehow, but it seems like Zeri's the only one there. So they're going to give up first tower in exchange for exclusive gold onto Artemis here for the side of Cerberus.
They are not the fastest pushers over there. I tell a lie because it's Wukong with an item completed. That's actually a very fast tower pusher.
Yeah,
or not so much, but they still get the tower. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Artemis funneled gold into, and here we have another engage.
Ultimate in Drakthar, immediately knocked away. Actually, really well played from Yado right there, as Drakthar still alive on the other side of the fight. He's going to try to live against Kadi. Smite is going to get it, but Q is going to clean up on the other side. It's just a 1-for-1. Jinx traded for the Vi. There's all the members of Arcane suffering inside of a game like this, but Kadi slowly becoming an absolute beast as this this pick in the mid lane here, this insane usage, 2 games in a row now has just been so good.
Yeah, and we have to think about Cerberus' team composition. They do have a lot of engage tools, they can jump on style, but so far it doesn't really seem to bear a lot of fruit. I feel like they might be overextending onto style, and if you put Levi as a counter-engage into the equation as well, I'm not so sure if they have to continue on this path. Maybe utilize all the repositioning tools from Zeri a little bit more and try to go from there, because style is honestly pretty far behind, so put a little bit more focus, in my opinion, on Levi and Carti, because they are the mid-game threats.
Yeah, Kai to me is the one that you have to pay a lot of attention to. And this is why, walking into the game, I kind of wanted to see the Vi go for more damage. If you go for Electrocute, Hail of Blades, and you take, I don't know, Dusk Blade, but definitely something more damage-oriented. Could have been a way to assassinate without having to burn anything else, right? You press ultimate, you press Q, you press E, and immediately style is dead. And the same things happen inside of this game that are happening normally. The difference is it happens a lot faster and with only one champion, which is the only argument that I can make for it, because otherwise Drakthar just ends up being kind of... And at this point, he's more of a disengaged tool than anything else. As Rana P is picked very easily by the rest of this team. Ultimate gets dropped, but Styles can take that one.
Donated. Oh, GAM is playing so much like they did in spring. Just put Style on a hyper carry, give him a kill here and there, just let him farm for a while, and then he carries late game teamfights with all the setup of the other amazing members in his team. That was an Ego Herald, if I've ever seen one. Can we please just drop Heralds straight in front of the tower? VCS teams in this last week have been insanely bad, just and overly greedy, just running around corners and trying to drop that thing exactly on the tower. Just put it into your wave. You already have push. It's an assured push if you do it there. That's a pretty big misstep from GAM's side. Squandered their opportunity to get an even bigger lead, but... I mean, in the end, they still get a kill, they still get the dragon, it's still all GAM.
They do. They're in a fantastic position. Even unlike last game, they're up the 2 dragons as well, which is the big thing, at least to me. They don't have this insanely powerful sliver. They do have the Zeri, which is in a pretty solid position. Artemis already on 2 items, the most in the game at this point, as opposed to everybody else's itemization. But again, the 2 dragons yield very good results for GAM when it comes to later stages of the game, when they have the ability to play for the Dragon Soul, play for those team fights like they've been winning the vast majority of the series as well. And commanding a 2K gold lead is a perfect position to be in, because normally they're the ones down in games and coming back with superior team fighting. But now with the advantage, got more than enough to work on here inside of this one. GAM feeling great about the position that they're going to be in, especially because they've got a date next week with Team Secret for the #1 slot in the entire league, which, again, normally would be a tie, right? But Team Secret didn't beat them in the first rotation. There was the one team that they beat that they probably shouldn't have in the first rotation was GAM towards the end and towards the beginning of their reign of terror that they've had in the second half of the season. So if they win against Team Secret again, I believe they're a sole benefactor of that #1 position as well.
So they get to pick the very likely much weaker #4 team compared to #3. We're currently looking at a league where Saigon Buffalo might be the #3 team, as Puapan is getting dived on again.
Okay, he will live. That's a solid Gore Drinker, and Kiwa is going to buy him a little bit more time underneath the tower, but unfortunately, Kiaya is an absolute brick house right now when it comes to the health bar. Has over 3k and just doesn't care about what damage is dealt to him by a tower as Pun continues to get aggressed against. But coming back to this, once again, GAM is just... They're slaying everybody. They're doing great things. Actually, Rano P is going to make sure that I am not allowed to talk about narratives at all, as they're going to attempt to jump on the Kadi. Does work out. Artemis in the backline does pop the ultimate to try to put some damage.
Artemis needs to get these.
Anything. He's able to put some damage into style, but he gets feared off. Well played from Kadi, as Artemis can't find an angle in, can't find the damage necessary. Instead, it's just a member, nobody going down actually, but ultimate's burn from the side of Cerberus. That fight looked like it had promise, but unfortunately just not able to capitalize.
And time is running out for this Cerberus composition. Yes, they have the Zerius, the ultra late game insurance policy, but all the rest of the composition is geared towards early dragon stacking, towards mid-game team fighting. We have Renekton, Talia. They are always going to be super strong in the mid-game, and this Renekton is just a punching bag for an on. This is exactly the other way around that it should be, and they're really running out of time. I think if they can't find a winning team fight in 2 minutes at the Dragon, I'm almost willing to call the game over. Of course, there's still Zeri potential, yes. She's a hyper carry. She's a true hyper carry. She's a win condition in herself. But other than that, the rest of the composition is going to fall so far behind. Kiaya, because he's a good player and on a good team, is actually on level 13 already on the on. Very close to 14, he should be. So they might even get to 2 on items before that crucial fight. So I'm seeing the chances dwindle away for Cerberus. Artemis is not fast enough with his itemization upgrades compared to the on, compared to the style scaling up, but also Kati and Levi getting stronger and stronger.
And it's not just ticking down in terms of the game, in terms of the series, but also just the fact that they have no chance for playoffs. As off screen, it seems like Drakthar just got eviscerated, but no chance for playoffs, or at least very limited chance for playoffs. As of today, I believe Saigon currently sits at 6-5.
No, 7 now.
7-5. My apologies, 7-5. As he sits at the same record. So both of those teams would have to lose both their games next week, and it would have to be a double win from Cerberus. And I don't even know if that's enough mathematically to put them in competition for that last playoff spot. So they're fighting for their life right now inside of this tournament. Do they have enough? They're going to jump onto Artemis immediately, as they want to close out this one just as fast as possible. Ultimate gets popped by Artemis. He's going to lose a little bit longer because of that ultimate coming through. Is he going to be able to find Levi? He does. He at least trades one. The Baron is going to get traded back. His ultimate's going to be popped by Yano. He's going to tag the wall. B gets shut down. Into the cringe compilation goes your hook, unfortunately. But thankfully, because GAM lost their junglers, Cerberus cannot turn for the Baron.
And Cerberus might actually have time to regroup for Dragon, but let's take a look at this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just standard. Very nicely done.
Just Vision attempted pushing that out from GAM and or from Cerberus, and they get punished for it. Really well played by Kati, and then this is the continuation of that play.
And I feel like we've actually seen people be a little bit unfamiliar again with the engage ranges of Vex, but let's yeah, I mean, Artemis steps up like a hero. I'm not entirely sure if he had to do that, but in the end it kind of works out in his favor because he gets an 800 gold shutdown, which brings him ever that much, a little bit closer to that IE. I don't think he has IE already, and they're not going for Dragon. You need to fight this Dragon, in my opinion. Absolutely. Not fighting this Dragon is a death sentence.
It's a difficult position to thrust yourself into. I suppose they could be waiting for, I guess now it's Last Whisper instead of Infinity Edge coming through from Artemis, just so you could try to get through the rest of his members. Maybe you have breakpoints like third item on Talia, second item completed for Vi, things like that you could try to go for, but it is an uphill battle to say the least now, as they have zero wiggle room. Hextech Drake, or Hextech Soul, my apologies, for this GAM team would certainly be a death sentence when delivered by Style from such a far away with the rockets, especially now with Ornn items coming in. Feels like the clock has been ticking, and it feels like Cerberus has unfortunately fallen victim to the sands of time, really just pouring over top of them consistently in a game like this, where the only shot that they've got left is to win a big fight around that next dragon, which they're going to have to play perfectly, because otherwise it is disaster.
Artemis once again stepping too close to the... Oh my god, it's disaster.
Died immediately. He does pop quite a bit of damage. This gets Style on the other side, so there's at least a 1-for-1 as both ADCs are down, but you do not have enough damage to cover everything else. Yano's going to have to do quite a bit of work. Is he going to toss a couple of members in? Levi's on the side with the Cyclone. Damage is coming through from Yano as best he can, but all of his front line is going to be completely thrust away, as Yano just doesn't have the damage to carry the fight. Not as disastrous as I thought it was. It ended up being just a 2-for-3 here for GAM. I thought it was even worse than that, but fortunately, able to get out was Rano P and Yato. As I don't know, the Talia is working in a lot of good ways. This is the pick-off. They burnt everything into Artemis, and he lived for so long, killing on the opposite side as well. The fact that he traded was insane. Yeah,
but Artemis, once again, stepping too close to the line, just walking up to terrain when you don't have vision. Artemis, you really need to cut this out. Twice in a row now, 2 fights in a row. He was targeted by Nautilus ulti without the Nautilus even having to overcommit. That should never happen. Why is Zeri ever in ult range for Nautilus without Nautilus having to do anything? Artemis needs to step up and not fall prey to these engages. Yes, they got away with murder here. Nothing really happened from this fight, and actually kind of cut into the time for GAM to prepare maybe a little bit more of what they want to do for the next dragon, but it's still looming on the horizon. They had Hextech Soul. And also, level 15 from Kiaya, I'm going to say it over and over again, because no other VCS team has figured out how to play on. But of course, the first game, or one of the first games they play on... Why?
Goodbye. as Artemis just gets assassinated. He was contesting for red buff with Levi, and that just ends up meaning nothing as Cotty is there.
Looks almost
Ultimate
tilted.
coming through from Yato to try to prevent the wave. Yeah, he definitely looks tilted inside of this game. As the ultimate's going to come through to try to catch as many members as possible. Yato flashes over the wall with the Nautilus hook, but there's just members getting hunted to left and right. As the only member left that matters, I suppose, on the side of Cerberus is Drakthar. He still has the smite, still could try to steal the Baron buff away, but this feels like it is the linchpin in this game for GAM if they grab this one up for free.
Yeah, he needs to steal, and they need to not lose the game instantly if he manages to steal. So Cerberus need to at least have 1 or 2 people survive. Oh, and he doesn't even go for it. That's another objective over to GAM. And I actually want to take a second and zoom out and talk about GAM's absolutely amazing run. This is the 7th series in a row they're going to win. The second half of the split, they've been undefeated so far. Levi, please let me speak. Run away.
I'll just leave this. It doesn't really matter that much. This probably won't break that crazy. Yeah, there's nobody to catch him. You're fine.
So they are actually back to their domination of old. And no one is really on the... I mean, we're starting to catch up to their domination, right? But everyone is still speaking about the split as a little bit of a disappointment for GAM, coming from a 14-0. Now, to be fair, they can't go 14-0, obviously. They've already lost 3 series. But they are now, after this one today, 7-0. That's half of 14-0. And they still have 2 to go. They could end the series, the split, on a 9-series winning streak, which is insane considering the form they were in at the start of summer. So it might not be the most dominant split in terms of just game difference or just series score, but it's still an impressive comeback performance for GAM, and they are looking so scary, especially when it comes to mid and late game. They've lost a little bit of their early game excellence, but their mid and late game is all the much better.
The important bit about this, to me at least, is the fact that GAM has been removed from international competition in League of Legends since 2019 Worlds, right? 2019. It's been 3 years, and we haven't seen them. They have been in the hyperbolic time chamber, waiting and scaling to get into a position where they could be the World's competition for VCS. And it would have felt really defeating to watch them lose this split the first time they could have qualified for it. And I'm really happy they're showing up because, I mean, Artemis is just dead.
Toast.
Ultimate's coming through. Drakthar has to flash over the wall. He's followed by Cotty. Cotty, does he have anything else to actually do? No, he doesn't have the damage, but that's going to be Levi following as well. Yato able to shove them off. Cotty also under some legitimate threat right here, as Yato just has to do the damage. Will he be able to? Does cleanse as fast as possible against Levi, but it's not going to mean anything, as all 3 remaining members from the side of Cerberus are pushed away from the bottom side. Pun, the only one remaining on the map at the moment in the mid lane, just trying to push some minions to make sure they can't capitalize anywhere else. But GAM, with this insane team fight, is able to win countless times in a row. Yeah,
and Carty saw Froggy's game early. He had tried in game 1, he had a mediocre Vex game, but now he has found back to his Vex form. He was the best Vex in the league. His Vex was drawing bans, justifiably so, because he was just destroying games every single time he took to the stage with this champion, and he's back in form right now. 8-2-5, 700 gold shutdown, and well, if your Vex, your fat Vex, lands the ultimate on the enemy target, that's the only one that matters, the enemy ADC, and it assassinates him, you're in a really good spot to win the game, because no one else really needs to do much.
Okay, immediately as well, as that's also the soul that's been taken. Artemis is going to try to win this fight basically on his lonesome. He has no additional carry. Artemis is going to die. Drakthar also just getting hunted. Levi's going to be able to kill it. Okay, style makes me a liar. Unfortunately, he's just going to be able to kill him off. And that's probably the end of the game. Like, that's just it. Here and now for GAM. They close things out. And Cerberus goes out of this series after a competitive game number 1 with just a whimper of nothing to really compete with. As Yato and Pun are going to make a very weak effort attempting to try to stop this, but it just doesn't matter. The onslaught's going to continue from the side of GAM. Yato goes desperately into the stopwatch, but he's surrounded, as that's going to be multiple members from GAM surrounding everybody. Wolves collective around the sheep, as they're going to close out this series almost certainly. Take this one. They're coming for the title, Secret.
And it's